Thank you so much for coming. My name is Lee Middleton, and I got the pleasure of chairing this session. My day job is I'm the Chief Executive of the National Youth Agency for England, which is the professional governing body for youth services across England, looking after local authority, voluntary sector, and everything in between. Work very closely with DCMS, been working with colleagues across education, DWP, etc., on a range of priorities. And youth employability is a huge one for us. So it's great to have you all here. I have a long history of working with young people as a frontline practitioner for too many years, 20 plus years. The topic of today's session is co-location and localising youth provision, which is something I've been trying to do my entire career. Once upon a time, I was a connections manager. People remember connections well. And as a connections manager, I had no choice but to relocate my entire connections team into a local job centre because of a small flood that we had. And the performance uptick we saw from the ability to support young people because we co-located the job centre plus team with the youth team from connections saw huge benefits to young people. When I was head of youth services in Surrey, we also tried for a devolution deal to co-locate CAM services and employability services into our youth centres. We had 40 youth centres across Surrey. So I got quite a bit of experience of trying to explore this and develop this, and it's great to have us come along today to explore how, going forward, we improve the landscape for young people by co-locating. We have some amazing speakers today, and so I'm going to kick off in a second with Helen Dern from DWP, Department for Work and Pensions, who's the group director there. But we've got Adrian Leather, partner at Active Lancashire, so thank you, Adrian, for your time. Nicola Avery is team leader at Job Centre Plus, and she's extremely excited by what she's been doing. I've been catching up with her before this, so that's the one to watch. And then Francesca Pryor from Southampton City Council, also been doing some great work in this space. So we have got the opportunity for some questions at the end, so please use the chat function. Drop your questions in. I will introduce our speakers one by one, and then I will try and pull out your questions, and we'll have a bit of a panel conversation for the rest of the time that we've got left. That all makes sense. We'll get going. So it's a great pleasure to introduce Helen from the Department for Work and Pensions, who's been sort of driving some of this agenda with the Minister. So Helen, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Lee. So good afternoon, everybody. Real pleasure to get the chance to talk to you about something that I'm particularly passionate about as a long-standing civil servant with a long history of working in DWP, a lover of localism and a lover of place-based solutions, and really to give you a bit of background about how youth hubs came about and why we in DWP believe that they have a long future and why they are making a difference today to young people across the UK. For the last 18 months, I've been leading out the delivery of across DWP of our youth offer and working very closely with both the Minister, but also with a number of key youth agencies to try and build a solution and a way forward for youth unemployment that is different and is innovative and gives young people a voice in terms of what it is that we're trying to deliver. The most notable part of our youth offer at the moment is the difference that Youth Hubs has brought to the way we think and the way that we approach our relationship with young people. DWP has stepped into some new ways of working here. Yes, I do believe that there is an approach that requires us to have a centralised standard operating offer for young people. But it's very clear that the most important thing is to understand in each geography and from each community what the options are to solve and to find solutions to the challenges that they particularly face. And central government really wanted to try and do something different in this space and really reach out to partners and understand how we could do this better. The hub vision takes us into a bit of new territory and one that we've found a bit groundbreaking but exciting. And I know when you hear from some of the practitioners on the ground who've been working with us on this, you will see the enthusiasm that they have. DWP has explored place-based solutions pre the pandemic in lots of different ways. But this actually is the first time I believe we've gone out and decided to how do we do this place-based solution across the country, but grown from the communities that they're here to serve. The youth hub vision is quite clear. This is a place-based solution that looks to provide solutions for the community, but is delivered in partnership with others. So the partnership is the key point that I wanted to get over today. The hub doesn't belong to anybody. The hub is a partnership of a range of different partners, and that each of those partners brings to the table their expertise. And that every location where we have established hubs, you will see a slightly different model, a slightly different solution. It's really important that every partner that is part of the hub feels equal in the decision-making and the future involvement of that hub. And we also make sure that we maximise every piece of funding that is available in that location to the very best ends of the young people. We want to create safe spaces within the Youth Hub network, somewhere where young people can come and interact with a range of different service providers to help them move forward beyond their immediate need. And that might well be your job, but it might well be other things, whether that be housing, whether that be mental health support. It's really critical that the hub is seen as a one-stop shop where individuals can come and have a safe conversation with experts and practitioners who can help them solve that problem. We currently have 140, just over 140 hubs that are open, offering face-to-face services right now. And by the end of November, our hope is with those continued strong partnership relations, we will have 150 hubs open across the UK. We're very much moving into evaluation and support and understanding what is the offer of each of those hubs at the moment. Are they delivering against that original vision? Are we maximising the funding? Are we offering that real safe space for young people? What are the good news stories that we're bringing forward? But also, what more can we do in each of those locations to build the offer? So what would be a better way of you hearing about what a hub does than by talking to and hearing from a few people who've been really fundamental and instrumental in getting hubs off the ground. So Lee, back to you, and let's hear from the people who are making this vision a reality.
Brilliant, thanks, Helen. Yes, absolutely. So without further ado, if I can bring in Adrian Leather from, who's a partner at Active Lancashire, and Lancashire's been doing some interesting stuff. Adrian, over to you.
Thanks, Lee, for that introduction. So a little bit about Active Lancashire, so that partners on the call know who we are and other similar organisations out there across the country who they may wish to get in contact. So Active Lancashire, we're part of the Active Partnership Network. We're part of the Sport England family. There's one of us in every county. We are ostensibly about getting people of all ages moving, becoming involved in physical activity and involved in sporting lifestyles. And by that sporting lifestyle stuff, we're thinking really about people enjoying the benefits of getting physically active and social networks and being able to really build the resilience, both mental and physical, to help them improve their long-term health and their economic trajectories. And that's what we're about. And it's a real empowerment approach, and it will work very much in partnership with local authorities and community-based organisations, some of which are sport organisations and some of which are youth organisations. Myself, my background is in youth work. I'm a qualified youth worker, so great that you're here, Lee. And also within the youth offending team, where I was one of the senior managers within Lancashire. But that partnership approach is what really underlines and supports and makes successful the local hubs that we've got operating for young people in Pendle and Rossendale. We are supporting others, but we're leading those two. And we've been able to bring together and galvanise partners from the locality and from different backgrounds, particularly cultural backgrounds, who are able to work with us and young people to help assist them. Everything from their needs around housing and homelessness, right the way through to advice and guidance, right the way through to befriending and just general support. And we've got a number of programmes which have been able to bring to support the youth hubs, as all active partnerships do. There's some Sport England activities and funding, including the Tackling Inequalities funding, which is a national programme from Sport England. And as the name suggests, it's really about young people who are experiencing the highest levels of mental health, physical health inequalities, particularly during the period of pandemic. And it's about working with local organisations to upskill young people and help them develop the confidence to make those life state changing opportunities to get more physically active and make those next steps. So tackling inequalities of funding, that's one thing that we do alongside the youth hubs, but we also do school games. We also have a drug recovery programme. We also do mentoring and coaching for young people. And that's been part of our youth hub offer, alongside our work to galvanise partners to come together and work in support of young people around the youth hub, that we've been able to bring into the areas across Lancashire. And that's been a fundamental aspect of our success. And one of the key projects that we've linked it with has actually been our housing associations. And we've been working with the DWP on a long-term ESIF funding programme called More Positive Together. That's about, as ESIF is, people of working age being supported to improve again their mental and their physical health through simple steps just to get them active, which can just include things like just initially starting to go for a walk and befriending and such things. And then there's a coaching and mentoring aspect to that as well, with people who've got lived experience, which is provided through the housing associations. And then we're linking people with opportunities to get fit and active, improve their mental health and physical health, and then move them towards employment. And we've, through that funding now, which has been considerable, it's moving towards 10 million, we've worked with around about 3,500 people of all ages, a good proportion of them young people, with long-term barriers to employment. So these are people who've got particularly long-term mental health and physical challenges, which mean that they can't engage with work. But we've been able to, through that partnership with housing associations, local authorities, leisure providers, and other local voluntary sector organisations, and that work that we've been doing with the Job Centre Plus, the JCPs, we've been able to create some fantastic locally focused partnerships and link with allied initiatives such as the Town Deal, and also employment opportunities which are run by the local authorities and the LEP. So that's a quick overview of our approach. We've been, one of the key things that I would say for partners on the call to consider is that our work coaches, we've brought people in who've got considerable lived experience, and that's been critical to engaging our young people and actually helping them navigate the local opportunities within their area, the landscape, and the partners which they can benefit from, through that we've been able to galvanise and support some brilliant partnerships with people like the Prince's Trust and their work around health and social care recruitment, and with our football clubs as well, the Football League Trusts, who've really helped us with their employment and coaching programmes. So thank you, Lee. Over to you.
Brilliant. Adrian, thank you so much. That sounds really interesting, and we can unpack some of this. Colleagues, you're welcome to pop any questions or thoughts into the chat section, and we'll get to those. So Adrian mentioned the collaboration with Job Centre Plus, so I think it's really helpful to bring in Nicola now, who's a team leader from Job Centre Plus, who can talk to you about the work that's going on. She's in the office and it's telling me that people might be walking past her, which is great because we like an active workplace. Nicola, over to you.
Thank you very much. So I am Nicola. I manage the youth team at Nelson Job Centre, and I've helped support in opening Pendle Yes Hub. And I've also been a work coach in the past, and I had experience of working with young people aged 16 to 24. So in the Job Centre, we see a wide range of young people. Some of them are ready for work and have all the tools in place to find employment, but others face some real challenges. So we have people who live in very deprived areas, those that have found the school system really hard and have left with no qualifications, people with mental health or physical health conditions, and some people who don't even have the basic needs that we take for granted, such as housing. Prior to youth hubs being developed, it was really difficult to engage and support those who were harder to help. Often the first challenge is getting young people through our doors, as let's face it, the job centre is not really the place where young people want to be. Once they do attend the job centre, the young people find it hard sometimes to open up about what's actually going on in their lives, because we're in a really busy office environment sat amongst a lot of other customers as well. And our work coaches are not experts in dealing with young people, nor the issues they face. And often it was daunting trying to think of creative ways to get customers engaged. In order to get support, we had to refer customers to providers, often off-site from the job centre, and that added just another barrier for these young people, as sometimes they had to travel. And what we found was that customers told us they were engaging with that support, but weeks later we found out they hadn't been. And despite attending regular weekly appointments, some of these customers were just not moving forward. However, how things have changed since with the creation of local youth hubs. We now have community-based locations that are only for customers aged 16 to 24. The buildings are much more inviting than the job centre, and we've been able to put our stamp on them. And we've already found that the attendance of customers has improved dramatically. In fact, they attend the hub better than when they come to the job centre. Our youth hub is now a one-stop shop where customers can speak to their work coach, but also access the help and the support that they need there and then. No longer do our young people have the challenge of going to a different environment to get that support, or having to travel, which was often very off-putting. We're working more closely with a wide range of different providers and experts who are trained in supporting young people or in helping with the difficulties that they face. Our youth coaches are finding that this actually helps them have a more focused conversation with the young person, because they're liaising with our providers to consider those next steps. I have to say, it's a massive team effort. The communication between our partners and DWP staff has greatly improved, and I know my youth hub coach relishes from being able to case conference there and then with our provider Active Lancashire, and it adopts that more solution-focused approach. I've also seen firsthand how the young people have influenced the hub, so it's become their environment, not just ours. As we get to know the young people, it allows hub coaches and partners to tailor support based on needs. And at Pendle Yes Hub, we now have a wide range of partners all working together to do what is best for our local young people and community. We started off offering a digital service during COVID, but since it opened officially, each week a new service is on board, and we now have employability support, wellbeing, motivation, housing support, and even activities such as pool, VR headsets, and much, much more. Youth hubs have also helped DWP meet a wide range of new partners that we haven't even worked with previously, and that has really strengthened that link within the local community. Working together allows providers to advocate each other's services based on the customer's needs, and that has just been great to see that real collaborative working. We're seeing results in action, with several customers moving into employment, kickstart opportunities, training and apprenticeships. Recently, I spoke to a customer who told me initially he didn't want to come to the hub due to anxiety. He was referred by his hub coach to Active Lancashire, and they managed to persuade him to attend just one activity. Although he was reluctant at first, he did attend, and this resulted in him attending several activities. He's grown in confidence, and he told me this himself, and he was now looking to progress into education. This was a massive step for someone who wasn't even leaving the house. And after speaking to him, I thought, this is what youth hubs are all about. This is why we're doing this piece of work. My coaches are so excited by youth hubs. In fact, I think my work coaches would all want to work in a youth hub. It's been wonderful to see. And I want to end just by sharing my favourite youth quote. And I think it sums up perfectly what youth hubs are trying to achieve. We cannot always build a future for our youth, but we can always build the youth for the future. Thank you.
Oh, Nicola, what a great quote. Thank you very much. Sounds amazing stuff. So our final speaker, and then we'll open it to the rest of the room for sort of conversations and any questions. So do put them in the chat. No one's putting them in there yet. It's starting to feel like a lonely box. So do fill it in. But can I bring in Francesca? Francesca from Southampton City Council. And Francesca, do you want to tell us your journey?
Yeah, of course. So thank you very much. So I'm Francesca. As you've already said, I work for Southampton City Council and I work for the employment support team. Now, we are a team of 27, I think, employment officers now who use the model of supported employment to enable all of our clients to move either towards or closer towards the labour market and also into employment and training. So our models that we use are very person-centred, so everything's about the individual. And what we've managed to do is we've incorporated that into our youth hub. That was what everything was really built on. For us, it's about enabling individuals to achieve their own goals in their own time and making sure that the right support's put around them. So it's never been a one-size-fits-all service. So, you know, our experience of setting up the youth hub in Southampton has been really fantastic, actually. So we started off offering a digital hub, which we built very well. I say we, some of my team built it very quickly, and it enabled people to be able to go and have information at their fingertips, but also at the same time we were able to offer telephone support, Zoom meetings, WhatsApp calling, however the young people wanted to engage with us. That's what we enabled them to be able to do, because it was really important that not all young people feel confident talking on the phone, but actually enabling face-to-face contact digitally works really well for them. So that was really important to us. And the digital hub is still very much sort of going strong and is being updated daily, as is our social media, which again is just helping to pull young people in. The physical hub has been really, really well received with all of our key stakeholders in the city. Something that everybody else has said is the co-location. It really works. The amount of positive conversations that we have within the hub, not just with young people, but between the professionals, really work. So we are really lucky in our hub. We have our youth workers from No Limits in Southampton. We've got 2 DWP work coaches. I also have 4 employment officers who all support young people. So the idea is that it's quite a buzzy, busy environment, but young people have found it a really positive environment to be in. So the joint working has really, really worked. And once the young people come into the hub, some of them were very anxious about, you know, actually going somewhere rather than just having their telephone appointments and things. But actually, once they're there, they felt really comfortable. They've enjoyed their experience of coming in. We're based within our central library. There's now lots of stickers that literally are on the floor so that people can just follow the dots really to get to the youth hub. So we've tried to make it as accessible as we possibly can. And it's worked really well. And certainly working with the library staff has been fantastic. And we've got some very exciting projects coming up. And you know, it's really going to enable the young people to access lots of other support and other professionals, which is very exciting. Some of the challenges, though, I think, you know, I'm going to say the same thing as probably most people will have done, but COVID has been a bit of a challenge for us, but not in the traditional sense. It's more around different organisations having different contingencies, different delivery plans and different work practices during COVID, and for us trying to balance that and make sure that everybody gets what they need and ensuring that young people still get a service has been tricky. It's not been, you know, impossible, but it's made us maybe stop and think a little bit more than we would normally. Information sharing processes with DWP, so a formal sort of data sharing is a real challenge for us. So a lot of our conversations are just that, because obviously they're not allowed to share too much information. So I think for me, that would be certainly a challenge that I'd really like to see resolved. And, you know, from the young people's sort of experience and things, they're really benefiting from the fact that it is a one-stop shop and the real collaborative working. An example of that is a young gentleman came in, very similar to Nicola's story, really wasn't that keen about coming in, felt quite anxious about kind of leaving the house. came in, met with the work coach, built up a really good relationship. And then he applied for a Kickstart position, was interviewed, was given a job trial, all of a sudden shared with the work coach that actually he hadn't eaten for a couple of days, didn't have any food, was really struggling, didn't really know what to do. And he'd held on to all of this for all of the other weeks that he'd been meeting with her. I then sat there, I did a referral for a food bank, he was all sorted. He then came back, he was offered the job. And, you know, it's really that joint up working and sitting there. He didn't have to go anywhere else for the food voucher. I could do it there and then. He came back, had a start date for the job, still needed another voucher just to tide him over. So that's what we did. So it really helped to just put everybody in the same room together, really, and help him move forward. So that was wonderful. We're hearing from a lot of our young people that they feel really relaxed and supported in our youth hub. It's still very much a movable feast. I really want to fill the hub with our young person's artwork. So it is still being built, really. And, you know, as I've pointed out, sort of combining meetings with other professionals has really helped to increase attendance to meetings, and also just show young people that actually there is a network of seamless support around them. They just have to tap into it, really. And trust is a big thing, so building up that trust with them. We've started a youth forum to allow our young people, not just current clients, but previous clients and new clients to engage, to really help us shape how the hub is going forward. Because for me, it's not about putting in the provision that we think young people need. It's really important about putting in the provision that young people think that they need and what's going to make a real difference to them. So those forums are going to be quarterly, because it's really important that we hear what our young people think of the hub and what we need to change.
Francesca.
Local partnerships, it's brilliant. So we have lots of other organisations that come in, they use the hub to deliver training. So Princess Trust, for instance, are delivering their Explore programme and other bits and pieces from our seminar room. We have the WEA. We're going to be delivering some courses for WSX Enterprise. So it's about getting everybody in, so that when a young person comes in and says, actually, I want to do this training course, the idea is that we can just say, oh, actually, next door, there's such and such from that. Let's go and have that chat. So it's just making it easier.
Francesca, I'm really sorry to stop you. Do you want just 30 seconds more, because we need to, I want to get to questions, sorry.
No worries. So we're working very closely with Kickstart, and you know, the hub itself is really working very, very well. And you know, I think for me, the really important thing is that the local model works, so we can make it really personalised to our Southampton young people. And you know, I would just love to see sustainable funding for hubs going forward. So there you go. Thank you. Brilliant.
Francesca, sorry to interrupt you. It's the awful thing to do, but I know we've only got 15 minutes for questions. But while you're there, can I put the first question to you, which is, we've had a question from Liz from the Association of Colleges, which is, do you think it'd be better to have less job centre pluses and develop more hubs with a multi-agency focus within the community? Do you think that would be more effective? I'd be interested in your thoughts on that, because obviously you've done a bit more of that in Southampton.
Personally, I do think it would be better. I think it makes it far easier for a more personalised offer to be put forward for young people. And I think, you know, job centres definitely have their place, but there is still that almost that stigma for young people to be walking into a job centre. And I think if we have other hubs set up in different locations, actually there's no stigma to that. Anybody can walk into a library, and you could be walking in for a whole host of different reasons. So I personally would say, yes, I think that's the way forward.
Perfect. That's very, very helpful. Brilliant. So we've got some questions pouring in. If anyone wants to put a couple more in, that we'll try and get through them. So Liz, thank you for your question. We've got a question from Sarah from the National Deaf Children's Society, which is around I think for Nicola and maybe Adrian to pick up, which is, are youth hubs able to be tailored to support young people with disabilities? That young people can face specific and different barriers, and is they able to adapt what you're doing and how you're doing things to support those young people? I think that's the gist of the question. So, Nicola and Adrian, any of your thoughts around the way you're able to flex what you do to support those with disabilities, of any form of disability, I guess?
Yeah, it's really important you get that customer insight to make sure that everything's being covered. What's really important is in a job centre we have a disability advisor, and it's really important to bring that person on board to speak to kickstart employers to become disability confident, so that's putting a badge of honour for that company to say that we support people with disabilities and barriers. And by doing that, that makes that young person more comfortable to go forward for those opportunities. You are really right in your question. Access to work is something that's really important and not always explained to employers very well. So that's what our DEA does, ensures that we're explaining to employers and the young people of access to work schemes so that we can pop those reasonable adjustments in place. But yes, getting your disability advisors, one thing that I would recommend within a hub. It really does support it.
Brilliant. I mean, Adrian, you and I share a passion in being youth workers. So, the traditional thing with youth workers, we start with the young person rather than the process sometimes, and we'll kind of strip out those layers to try and make sure a young person gets the best access. I'm interested in your thoughts around some of this stuff.
Absolutely. So, for us, we've found that we've had to support and develop our staff more, particularly around learning difficulties, and a range of long-term conditions, including things like type 2 diabetes, which a number of our young people are facing. So we've also been supporting people into employment. So over the last 12 months, we've got 65 people into employment, but we're probably in contact with around about half of them. And they're still regularly engaging with the Youth Hub staff and the coaches and the mentors, in a longer term basis. And a big proportion of that support is around supporting them with their disabilities. And again, that advice and that guidance to help them understand and navigate the landscape they're operating in, access the support that they need. And just in many cases, just have the confidence to be able to share what their challenges are with their employers, so that they can have an open and mature conversation, and they can work through the options proactively to stay in work, stay in learning, and just maintain their momentum. Thank you.
No, that's brilliant, really helpful. So we've got a question from Sam from the Learning and Work Institute, which is, what's next for youth hubs? We've had them up and running, and they were digital originally because of the pandemic. Now they're in person, which is fantastic. But what's the innovation? What's the next thing that's coming for you? And my question to add to that, which I'm going to start with you, Helen, if I can. What surprised you all? What surprised you about this process?
Okay, so let's start with what's next. I think for me, there is definitely a piece of work to be done around the evaluation. And because each of the hubs is different, has a different setup, has different funding models that's supporting it, I think we need to establish what the best practice looks like. And we are taking some external support, some external evaluation to help us a little bit with that. So I do think that needs to be brought on board so we can make the right decisions about where we go next. I don't see them going away anytime soon. We've got a lot of support, both partnership-wise and ministerial-wise, in trying to grow the offer even more. So for me, it's about, what are they delivering? Are we absolutely confident that they're doing the best that they can, and what more could we do in sharing the best practice? What surprised me actually is how varied the relationships are across the country, and how quickly certain parts of the UK got on board with this and properly understood what we were looking for in terms of place-based solution, that this was a partnership resolution. This isn't a DWP hub. This is a Lancashire hub, or a Birmingham hub, or a Liverpool hub, or wherever it might be, and that everybody has an equal part to play in it. And in some parts of the UK, we got that really quickly, and we were up and running very quickly. In other parts, the amount of time in terms of negotiation and understanding the model of where we wanted to get to took quite a bit longer than I thought it would. So understanding that's maybe a bit of what place-based is all about, that every part of the country is at a different place in their journey here, and you've got to work very closely to understand how you fix that and move that forward. So that's what surprised me a little.
No, brilliant. I'm going to come to all our panelists with this question. So, I mean, I'll go to you, Adrian, next. So, what surprised you, but also what's next for you guys in terms of your hub?
I mean, for us and the hub, we're really excited by the opportunity and just maintaining that relationship with the DWP, our local authorities and other voluntary sector colleagues, including people like the Prince's Trust and the football trusts and such. So as a voluntary sector organisation, and this is something I hope will be useful to other members on the call, we're really good at knitting together the little bits of opportunity, the funding, and starting to influence partners in a meaningful way. So I can say that we've got the LEP on board. So we had recently the LEP chief executive, we invited her to the opening. She was really, really impressed by the partnership, the work, the challenges that young people were facing and how we were dealing with them in that place-based joined-up approach. And so we're in the mix for the Community Renewal Fund, but also with the LEP support, we're positioning ourselves along with partners for UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So that's where we're aiming to bring the partnership together and hoping to sustain that in the medium to long term, utilising that funding.
Brilliant. And thing that surprised you?
Things that have surprised us, I think probably the level of unmet need. So young people emerging from COVID, and I do mean emerging from COVID, have felt disaffected. Certainly there are people that have lost so much confidence and so much emotional and physical resilience. And so for us, it's been very emotional for our staff. And our staff have needed a lot of support and additional training so that they're able to deal with the challenges which the young people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And that's particularly acute in our ethnically diverse communities, particularly our travelling communities, our South Asian communities, who perhaps have again been more disproportionately affected. And there's huge inequalities there, which we're only really starting to understand now.
Super, thank you. Yeah, the work that my organisation, the National Youth Agency, has done through the pandemic with the Children's Commissioner's Office showed that normally around 1 million young people would need access to community-based support. That number tripled by the end of the second lockdown. So, you know, the scale of the challenge should not be underestimated here. I'm going to come next to Nicola. So, Nicola, the same two questions for you. You know, what's next for you guys, and what surprised you?
So what's next? I really want to get employers on board with the Youth Hub and maybe looking at some sort of sponsorship arrangements where they put their name to the hub as well, because I think that again will support the young people move closer to employment. In terms of what surprised me, I was really shocked how quickly the young people engaged with the Youth Hub, because they had a period of time where DWP were contacting by digital methods. So again, there was a barrier then coming in, but it's really surprised me how quickly they've adapted, and that just shows the resilience of young people, doesn't it, all over. But they're coming in, they're loving it and really enjoying the environment, and I think it's opened a lot of our work coaches' eyes to this being a really good idea.
Brilliant. Any surprises?
Really, that was the surprise. I was shocked that they would engage so quickly, but literally as soon as they started coming, there wasn't a backwards and forwards of them coming back to the job centre. Once they got it, the young people have got it, that this is the place I want to be, and it was really nice to see that.
Perfect. Brilliant, thanks so much. And Francesca, your thoughts on those two questions? What's next for your Youth Hub, and what surprised you about this journey?
So what's next? Well, I guess that really depends on what our young people are telling us they want. But certainly from my point of view, it's about building on what we've already got, and kind of picking up on what Nicola just said. So working really closely with employers, so certainly the Kickstart employers. We're hosting a Kickstart jobs fair next month. So what I'm hoping is that actually our relationship building with those employers, we know that they're up for working with young people, so we need to really manage those relationships and build. So certainly for us, I think that's the way forward. and keep both the digital and the physical hub going, because we're still reaching some young people who feel that at the moment they're not able to engage with the outside world, and they're quite, you know, we just need to build up on their confidence a little bit more. And I think being surprised, you know, again, a bit like everybody else, really surprised on just how quickly young people have just gone, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. And they're really happy to engage and really happy to come down and tell us what they think, which is really important. And I think also just generally the way that other stakeholders have just jumped on board. So, you know, the fact that we've now got different organisations using the space that wouldn't normally particularly sort of come to the council, certainly, to, you know, to use some space and to run sessions. So just building on that, but that's really shocked me.
Brilliant. That's really interesting. So look, this has been a really interesting and engaging session. I just want to say a huge thank you to our speakers. This is a really important topic. I think when I've talked to young people through the pandemic and beyond, you know, what young people need is easy access to the right professionals in the right spaces. And actually what I've heard some of our speakers today talk about is actually locating, you know, work in youth-friendly environments. Sometimes it's the space that's really, you know, off-putting. And we hear this a lot about, so CAMS and mental health services going into a clinical hospital environment to speak about, you know, things is just so off-putting, young people won't come. So it's fantastic to see Southampton and Lancashire, etc., moving these hubs into spaces that are more youth-friendly, more engaging, talking about artwork on the wall. This stuff's really important. It really makes a huge difference to the level of engagement and the ownership of young people of the services they're engaging in. So I encourage everybody to get involved in this, really. And if you're not involved in the youth hub, or you want to be, then get in touch with your local job centre, have a chat with the managers there, and see what you can do. I think it's probably the best way forward. Just a huge thanks to Helen from Department for Work and Pensions. Really interesting to give your input as the sort of director overseeing some of this work. Thank you to Adrian and Nicola from the Lancashire perspective, two sides in terms of the DWP end, Job Centre Plus end, and the local on the ground end. And then thanks to Francesca for the Southampton perspective as well. I hope this has been a really useful session for colleagues. I understand you've now got a 10-minute break before you're listening to Steve Rotherham, the Metro Mayor for Liverpool City Region, and you'll need to go back to the previous link for this morning's session to get hold of that. I was talking to Steve Rotherham only the other week at Labour Party conference, so you know, I know he gets this stuff and is passionate. So thank you for everyone's time, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicola. Well done.
Thanks, Lee. Great job.
No trouble at all. No trouble. Thanks.
Thanks.
Good luck, Sam. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.